We good?
We're good.
Love it. Hello, everyone. As you may have noticed, this is not Liam's kitchen. This is the newly revamped Magic Stew office studio space / desk / coffee drinking table. Cheers, sir. Why am I lying to you? It's not coffee. It's water.
Because it's too late at night for coffee today. So
I'm running now a lot. I can't have any of that sugar and that caffeine. But we're back here, of course, for Draft Hotseat. Thank you all so much for your patience. We lost, like, how many videos?
4 or 5,
yeah,
I think.
in the grand.
I'll talk about it on another video. I'm promising you guys another video. It's going to happen. I'm probably going to shoot it tonight or tomorrow, and you guys will see it.
But most importantly, we're back for Draft Hotseat. For those of you who have not been to one of these before, this is where we talk about some of the uncommons in the brand new set. For those Philistines out there who don't know what the set is, it's M19. We do uncommons for a couple reasons. There's a lot of content on commons on sites like channelfireball.com or Star City Games. I would highly encourage you check those out. But because there's a lot of content, we're not talking about commons and we're not talking about rares. Although I will say this set has a lot of really powerful rares. So be on the lookout for some of those. But basically, Liam has selected a bunch of uncommons. I don't know which ones he has selected. I'm going to give them a rating from 1 to 5. 1 being the absolute worst, and a 5 being the absolute best. And basically, that's the general gist of it. I miss anything, Liam? We feeling pretty good?
That's about it.
We feeling strong? Excellent. I got a
about
glass.
it. We're going to film a few of these tonight and stagger them over the next few weeks.
Maybe do some other, maybe like opinion pieces or something too, just to kind of spice up the content. You'll have some draft bootcamp stuff from me coming down the pipeline as well, because I've actually been loving M19. A lot of people have disliked it, I think solely because it followed Dominaria, and that was a really great set. But like, I mean, I love M19. I'm enjoying it. This is the most I've enjoyed a core set in a while. So.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of people were hesitant to really give it a chance because it was a core set, and I can definitely understand that. But it has been fun, and I've done pretty well in this.
One of the writers from CFB said, it's not that it's a bad set, it's just that you don't want to be the act that follows Jimi Hendrix. And Dominaria is one of the best draft sets we've ever gotten, even if she didn't like me, but I still liked her. Still pretty good. All right, you ready for this?
I am ready for this.
Okay, select me a stack.
All right.
Show me the money.
We're going to go with...
Give me some goods. Give me
what's
some goods.
behind stack number 1? Let me see what I got here. I don't know what I got here.
No, I don't even know what you got. I'm going to put the blinders on. Do you guys like our new microphone? I like our new microphone. New desk. We got Mark in the background. You guys remember Mark?
Say hi, Mark.
Hi.
He was in a video once. Or his disembodied voice was. No, that's right. You were in a video because you were
in the first Magic video.
Yeah. And then the poo sleeve one, which if you haven't checked out, you should check it out. We might link it in the description below. We should link it in the description below. Yeah, or down somewhere. I'm just gonna keep gesturing. I feel like a Buddhist statue where he's got all the arms. All right. New card. Our first card, is Gargoyle Sentinel, which is 3 colorless mana for a 3/3 artifact creature Gargoyle with Defender. And it says, until end of turn, Gargoyle Sentinel loses Defender and gains Flying. I love this card, actually. I love artifacts simply because they can go into every deck. There's a ton of artifact synergy in this set. For example, there's a 3-mana uncommon that turns an artifact into a 5/5. There's a 4-mana 3/2 common that draws you a card if you control an artifact. But 90% of the time, Gargoyle Sentinel is a 3-mana defender that's going to block a bunch of ground creatures, and then it's going to take to the air. Sometimes it's going to attack. Sometimes it's going to block and trade with one of their flyers. You can bring it back with, it's not Pillarfield Ox, but the 2/3 Ox.
Yeah.
Common for 3 mana. Trusty Pack Beast. Mark coming in clutch out of the side. But seriously, though, I actually really like Gargoyle Sentinel. I actually rank it at a 3. I think it's above average. I will play it in pretty much every deck I have. I don't think I've discovered a number of Gargoyle Sentinels that I won't play. Probably like maybe 3 is too many of them. Important to note, you can attack with this if you have Arcades Sabaoth, though. They don't get flying then, but you can still attack with it without having to pay that 3 mana cost. So relevant. But yeah, you can bring it back with Trusty Pack Beast. You can draw cards off of it with the Sanctum Seeker or Star Sanctum Artificer, which is great. You can turn it into a 5/5. Yeah. It's a creature, so you can bring it back with stuff like Macabre Waltz. I like Gargoyle Sentinel. It also shores up red-green, which is one of the, I think, in my opinion, best draft archetypes in this set. It shores up one of their weaknesses, which is not having flyers or evasive creatures, so very good. I think 3 is a great rating for it. I think it's above average. I would be happy to play as many copies of Gargoyle Sentinel as I can get my hands on, to be honest with you.
Sounds fair, and that's actually one of the few that I have not actually been able to play yet with as many drafts as I've done so far. I mean, I'm probably hitting 20 drafts between arena and actual, in-store drafting, and I have not pulled one of those yet.
I think I have managed to get a Gargoyle Sentinel in about 60% of my drafts. And it has gone in my deck every single time. And I've never cut it from the 23 to 22 playables, depending on how much I have.
Mm-hmm.
Our next one is Double Cast, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I think used to be a rare. But it is 2 mana, so red for a sorcery that reads, when you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. I rank this at a 1. It is god awful. A lot of the removal in this set is sorcery speed and very expensive. I'm looking at stuff like Lich's Caress, for example, which is 3 colorless and 2 black mana. So for 7 mana, if you can copy a Lich's Caress, congratulations, you've got there. But chances are you're probably dead. And you also had to play a double cast, which, frankly speaking, doesn't do a whole lot for you at any point during this game. Seriously, it doesn't add to the board. The double red is really awkward. It requires you to wait to find something that's worth copying. A lot of times you're just going to copy a random combat trick, in which case I would just rather have a second combat trick in the deck rather than double cast. Maybe there's a deck that this works, but I highly doubt it. I give it a 1. I would avoid it at all costs. It is a sorcery. It's double red. Doesn't do a whole lot. It doesn't immediately impact the board, and it requires way too much for you to make it work. So 1.
Yep.
Honestly, it ranks above a 0 by just this much.
Having never used that, having not been around when that was originally out, not really knowing anything about the card, initially in Sealed I thought it was a great idea, and tried it twice.
Yeah.
And never again. I have to completely agree with your 1 on that one.
It's bad. It's really bad. I think I've seen one person sort of get someone with it, and it was that for like 7 mana they were able to copy a Lava Axe and just dome someone for 10 out of nowhere. But the game was such a cluster even before that happened that it
would have to be for them to have 10 mana to be able to do that.
Or 7 mana, yeah. But it was just like, it's a 1. Don't play it. Unless you're super desperate for playables, even then it probably is better to just get a basic land.
Yeah.
Just saying. I don't like double cast. Not very good. Our next one is Psychic Corrosion, so 3 mana, 2 colorless and 1 blue for an enchantment that reads, whenever you draw a card, each opponent puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. Man, I want this card to be good because I like trying to draft the mill archetype. I think sometimes it never really works. I mean, and when it does work, it's usually because something went horribly, horribly wrong somewhere along the line. It's better than double cast, I'll say that much, but we got rid of the 0.5s a while ago. So I'm going to have to give Psychic Corrosion a 1. Unless I'm missing something really drastic here, maybe there's a deck in this format that really wants to play Psychic Corrosion and sort of gets you with the mill. But for 3 mana, I want something that either draws me some cards, impacts the board, deals with a creature, is a creature, does anything for me other than sit there. Maybe if this milled 3 when it entered the battlefield and then 3 every time you drew a card, it would be up for consideration. If there was a strategy where I wanted to mill myself, maybe that would be cool. But I can't even do that because this is each opponent. So it's bad. It's a 1. Don't play Psychic Corrosion unless you're trying to get super cute. And even if you are, they don't expect to win your draft. I mean, I've certainly done that. Like I'll play gimmicky decks sometimes just for the fun of it. But like if you're drafting Psychic Corrosion or drafting around Psychic Corrosion, I wouldn't expect it to do very well for you.
I both agree and disagree with this one because yes, I agree it's a 1. I do agree it's a 1. And as everyone knows, you can win games with janky decks.
Yeah, you absolutely can. I've been killed by a Raging Goblin before.
I have 3 times under 3 different circumstances. I have drafted mill decks for Core 19.
Okay.
And 2 of those, I swept it. 1 of those, I failed miserably. 2 of them that I swept it, I admit I was lucky. I had a few of those. I had a few millstones. My deck everything fell into place, and I ended up against slow opponents.
I will say one thing, and this is actually important. I'm glad you brought that up. Against slower opponents, cards like Psychic Corrosion and Millstone are actually pretty good. For example, if you're an aggro deck, and you're up against a deck that has like 8 or 9 kill spells in it, and you've got a Millstone sitting in your sideboard, or if you're like white-blue tempo and you have against 8 or 9 removal spells, and you've got a Psychic Corrosion sitting in your sideboard, then it actually becomes a relevant sideboard piece. I will say that much. I agree with you there. I've done that before. Some of the pros have actually advised that you do that in this format. Ben Stark actually talked about that in one of his most recent streams, where he was like, I'm picking up a Millstone for my red-green dragons deck because I don't have a way around 9-kill spells. And he goes, and I can board this in instead of boarding in a plummet, and I can absolutely wreck them. And you can. So that is a viable strategy. However, this is a 1. And I'm glad you mentioned, too, that it worked for you a couple times. In game design, there's a fallacy that we talk about where it's almost like... confirmation bias isn't the right word, but it's the best term for it, where you think, and this is common among Magic players, particularly those who are new or like middling in their experience in draft, they think to themselves, oh, this worked for me, ergo it has to work all the time. I saw this a ton when we were playing Hour of Devastation Limited, and people would try and draft Torment of Scarabs, which is an utter garbage card. And they would keep drafting it over and over and over and over again, and it was just like, cool, for 4 mana you've done nothing, and I get to pick the thing that impacts me the least. Mm-hmm. And then you'd usually just kill them on turn 5 or 6. So it's good to talk about that, because if you notice yourself making those sort of strategic decision-making ideas where you're like, oh, this works for me, so it has to be good, you can take a step back and be like, wait a sec. No. Let's think about this in a vacuum. But Psychic Corrosion gets a 1, although again, on the sideboard it might be better. So I'm glad you brought that up too. That's good. Stitcher's Supplier is our next card. It's 1 black for a 1/1 zombie. I didn't think she was a zombie the first time I saw her. She doesn't look very rotted.
No, she doesn't.
She's in good shape for a corpse. You gotta tell her. Good job, Necromancers. Your zombies are hotter than ever before.
A couple of beers and
and demonetized. Well, we're getting closer to Wizards sending us a reprint of Amaranthine Wall as our only preview card. Ever. Just like, here's this garbage uncommon.
Hey, Magic Stew wants another preview card. What should we do? Just put Amaranthine Wall back into this set, too.
Just to mock them.
But it's like 8 sets, yeah.
Yes.
And they still haven't given up.
Every time we say something even mildly critical, we just get shipped the Amaranthine Wall spoiler. I'll review it every time as an Amaranthine. Who knows? Amaranthine Wall probably would have been better in this set. There's Artifact Synergy and Arcades, Sabath. Like,
yeah, that would have been awesome.
It actually would have been better.
Yeah.
It would have been better now than it has been before. We're getting beside ourselves. Stitcher's Supplier.
We're loud. It's our show.
We are loud. Sorry. I apologize, microphone. You're so beautiful. Stitcher's Supplier gets a 1 from me. Again, not a lot of graveyard synergy. There's Macabre Waltz, which is perfectly fine, but you're not going to want a 1-mana 1/1. A lot of the times, the zombie synergy isn't that great. You'd rather play basically any other zombie, if you could. I would much rather have like Vampire Neonate at the 1-drop slot. A 1-drop that blocks profitably and that has a good relevant late game ability. The enter the battlefield or dies and you being able to mill yourself 3, while is a very powerful ability, it's just not powerful in limited. I think this is a 1 in limited, and probably like a 4 or a 5 in modern. I want this in Dredge.
It's good in standard right now too.
Yeah.
There are a few decks that are running it.
But it's not limited. Gets a 1. These are 3 1s. We have 3 1s. After I just said that there's a lot of powerful uncommons and rares in this set, we had 3 1s.
We'll eventually come across them.
Good thing Gargoyle Sentinel, man, just putting the entire team on his back. Gargoyle Sentinel right now is worth all of the collective values of the 3 cards that preceded it. All right, and our last one is Druid of Horns. So it's 3 colorless and 1 green mana, so 4 mana for a human druid. And it says whenever an aura spell that targets Druid of Horns, whenever you cast an aura spell that targets Druid of Horns, create a 3/3 green beast token. He's a 2/3 as well for 4 mana. So there's a couple things that are wrong with this card. First things first, if this was a 4 mana 3/3, also if you hear stomping in the background, that's our resident. It's Owen's bedtime. So and he's not very happy that we banned him from the studio. So those of you who are Owen fans, apologies, but you won't be seeing him for a while. He's been bad. But a couple things that are wrong with Druid of Horns. First things first, it's a 2/3. So those of you who watched our video on the vanilla test, which we should definitely link as well, know that a 4 mana 2/3 is below curve on the vanilla test. If this was a 4 mana 3/3 or 4 mana 3/4, it would be an amazing card because it would already have a reasonably statted body for its casting cost. At 2/3, it does not, unfortunately. The other thing that Druid of the Horns has working against it is that a lot of times if you want to target things with removal, with auras, you run the risk of being sort of snuffed out by removal or bounce spells. There are a lot of good removal spells in this format. Murder is sitting at uncommon. There is, of course, we talked about Lich's Caress. There's Disperse at the bounce spell level. We can talk a little bit about something like Hieromancer's Cage, which is who's going to completely remove this if you manage to suit this up with a good Aura. If you have a couple really cheap auras, the 2-mana enchanted creature +1/+1, you can return it from the graveyard. Druid of the Horns probably goes up a little bit like that. Again, I'm missing my 0.5s because I don't think this is much better than something like Psychic Corrosion. I'm going to give Druid of Horns a 2. I don't think it impacts the board nearly as much, and I don't even think that the cases where you build around this card and manage to get the quote-unquote payoff make it worth having to play the card itself. If this made 4/4s, maybe. If this had reach or a better body, maybe. But as a 4-mana 2/3 that only gives you 3/3s and forces you to play pretty bad auras, like there's not really that many good auras in this set, to be completely honest with you, I'm not satisfied with it. Sadly gets a 2 from me. No, sorry, Druid of the Horns. Maybe next time.
So there are a couple of cases where I would say grab that right away. And you're well into your draft at that point in time, though. I tend to really like playing the aura decks in this particular set, and they've gotten me pretty far. I've also had times when I went into it saying I'm going to just draft auras because I've gotten so far with them. I go to do that, and then I just get my ass kicked.
Yeah, I've yet to see the auras deck be good. I'll be honest with you.
Green and white tends to really help me. Now, when we went to Titan out in
Timonium, Maryland, shout out to Titan Games. You guys have a fantastic store. We had a great time, by the way.
Yep.
You seriously, well done. Super organized. Everyone's really friendly. I liked it a lot.
I pulled that exact deck, the white and green auras deck, and I got snuffed out so easily.
Yeah, I've been underwhelmed every time I've played with or against it, to be honest. And that's what I'm saying. It looks great, but the problem is you're not getting enough out of it just on its face, and the cards it requires you to play are so much less impactful than what the other colors are doing. And that's the problem with Druid of the Horns. Again, if this was a 4-mana 3/3 or a 4-mana 3/4, this is a 3, maybe again, we don't have the point system, but it would have been a 3.5 easily because it would be a reasonably statted monster, but it's not. It's a 2/3.
Right. Well, what I'm getting at is if you do happen to find yourself in white and green and you do happen to have auras,
sure, then you want to draft it.
Definitely want to grab it because it doesn't require that aura lands.
That's true.
It's when you've targeted it with an aura.
That's true.
So if that gets taken out because you just put an aura on there, you've still got that 3/3 beast.
And that is true.
So
that's true.
That's a plus side for it.
But then you still lost 2 cards, and all you've got left is a 3/3.
Well, they were going to remove something anyway.
Sure, but you're still down 2 cards for playing this card. Also, too, think about like what your payoff is for this. Your payoff for drafting around this card is a 3/3.
I wouldn't draft around that card.
But it is a draft around card. This card was included to be part of that archetype. But it's not worth drafting around.
Right.
So what we have
there are definitely
what we have is a draft
would...
around card that's not worth drafting around. That's what I'm saying. That's what makes it a 2.
There are other cards in the set that I would call the draft around cards that I would grab that.
Think about
if I had
some of the other uncommons in this set though, and compare them. Because remember, we compare all this stuff in a vacuum, right? And maybe that's the right call, maybe it's the wrong call, but I'm thinking of the black-white vampire that every time you gain a life, you get a 1/1 flying bat token.
Right.
I'm thinking of the 3-mana artificer that turns any artifact in the battlefield into a 5/5.
That's pretty sick.
Right. And then now you compare those to Druid of Horns.
Right.
I'm not saying it's a bad. I am saying it's a bad card.
I mean,
it is a bad card.
But also, we're not going to be drafting blue.
Right.
And go, oh shit! There's a Druid of the Horns. I better take that and change my color.
It is a below
or splash for it.
Is it better than Psychic? Is it better than Psychic Corrosion? Yes. Is it still a below average card? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree with that. I'm just saying there are certain times when I think that.
Sure. I think the times that you're going to want this card, you're already in big trouble. Like the times that I would want a Druid of the Horns, I'm already not satisfied with how my draft has gone.
Okay.
That's sort of like when you draft 3 of those 5-mana 5/5s. You're just like, hope these guys get there. Like,
yeah.
You're not happy about it, but you're like, this is the best course of action to dig me out of this hole that I've gotten in. But we talk about that too sometimes, about like how to dig yourself out of a bad draft. And Druid of the Horns could be a way to do it if you absolutely need that. But again, it gets the 2 for me.
There are certainly worse cards if that's handed to you. And you happen to be...
I mean, we've reviewed 3 of them
that
are all worse than Druid of the Horn. But like, if you handed this 5 to me and you're like, take one of them, it's going to be Gargoyle Sentinel.
Yeah.
7 days.
Thanks, everybody. We're going to have another one of these in just a couple minutes. Well, I guess it's going to be next week for you guys. But
that's true. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, though, because that always helps us. Share, leave us a comment. Tell me I'm wrong about Druid of the Horns. Tell me
comments are awesome.
Yes,
we love
please
reading
do.
your comments.
I was going to say, I love like it was so nice to like have our comeback video and everyone be like, "Yo, we missed you!" Like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we missed you guys too." It's cool.
Yeah, we love you guys.
But yeah, we do. Cheers. See you.